I'm Jennifer Wells, speech-language pathologist, here to talk about a four-part series on early words, early imitation. Who knows, maybe it could grow to more than a four-part series, but for now, a four-part series. Today's is we're just going to talk about kind of the development of speech and syllable structures, which is pretty important for maybe how and why we pick the target words or sounds that we do, how to simplify and modify the models that we're providing for our child so that they're more likely to imitate us and more likely to succeed, which then promotes more willingness to attempt to imitate. So some of our first, if you think through infancy of babies when they're learning to bowel, they first start with our back kind of glottal sounds. Those are kind of the first early sounds, and then they go to what we call those vocalic or vowel sounds, oh, and then as they get up into what we call babbling, you start to hear some actual consonant sounds emerging, and they first kind of start with a meh, beh, and so our first, and then they develop into what we know as more typical babbling, ma, 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 ba, 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 da, da, da. So if you think back kind of through infancy, the sounds that tend to develop first are P, B, M, T, D, N, K, and G. We, speech therapists, call these our stop consonants. They're quick sounds that come to a stop. P, B, D, G. M and N are an exception to that rule, but we won't get into that. But they are also very early developing sounds. And then we also tend to develop our sounds from the front of our mouth moving back. So if you think about it, P, B, and M are all of our lip sounds. They're very far forward and very visible. And so babies tend to develop the ba, 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 and a m maybe, and a p isn't as common that you hear. But those are our lip sounds, and they tend to develop first. Then next comes, as we as speech therapists call it, our alveolar sounds. They're being produced by our tongue tip, elevating right behind our front teeth at our alveolar ridge. So these are our t, d, and n. And then you have our back sounds, k, g, produced with the back of our tongue coming up against the back of our mouth. So we're moving from the front of our mouth towards the back of our mouth, and these are our quick stop sounds as compared to maybe our continuing sounds like s, f, v. Those aren't what you think of when you think of a baby starting to babble. So our first, when we're working with babies, the first types of words and sounds we're going to be picking are going to be words that start with these types of sounds. Then we get to syllable structure. So babies tend to first start off with a bah, meh, as we're starting to hear those consonants emerge, and we call this an open syllable. So it's a consonant and a vowel, or as we call it, a CV. So just a simple consonant vowel open syllable. So those words might be like boo, bah, me, moo, pa for pop, to, no, go. Those would be so examples of early target words that are consonant vowels. Obviously, when they're babbling, we're not saying these things, but as we are trying to promote early words and early imitations, these words are words we may model and pick as words to target, and are common words that you hear maybe babies. That's why babies tend to do animal sounds first. Then pretty quickly babies start moving into what we call those reduplicated syllable or reduplicated babbling. Ma, 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 ba, 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 da, da, da. So those are a consonant, a vowel, a consonant, a vowel. So our CV, CV. And the consonants and the vowels are staying the same. They're not changing. So that's where our babies start with mama, dada, baba, wah wah, boo boo, papa, mimi, nana, or nana. And that is why where probably a lot of times why Mimi and Nana are common names for grandparents, Papa, and why those are the early words that our babies are learning, because they are developmentally where they're at. So as we are doing activities, so my next parts 2, 3, and 4 are just some activities that are easy to throw into everyday life that kind of model how we pick our target words and how we implement them into everyday routines and play, but also why we pick the words and the sounds we do, and also how we might need to simplify our models and our targets. So for example, this is when parents a lot of times ask is, what about baby talk? I want to talk to my kids in advanced big language, so they're building their vocabulary, and so there's a difference between when we're talking to our child, giving them instructions or reading to them. We want to use normal language. We want to use language that's promoting better receptive language, so that's our comprehension. So we're going to talk to them in sentences, and we're going to talk to them using nice big vocabulary. If our goal is for them to imitate us, so we want them to imitate us back, we want them to try to say the word we're saying, then that's when we need to simplify our speech, and that's where your baby talk is appropriate and is more likely to promote imitation. So for example, if we were going to talk to our child about having a glass of water, would you like some water? We're going to use the word water. But then if we would like our child to imitate us, we are going to simplify it, and we're going to say wah wah, because they are more likely to feel successful and know that they can produce wah wah than water. So if our goal is imitation, or not, our goal is to have our child attempt the words that we're saying, then we are going to simplify our words to a consonant vowel or a consonant vowel, so a CVCV word form, syllable structure in the very beginning, and then we will build from there. So whether your child is just a new 12 months new talker, or learning their first words, this is kind of the types of words and syllables that we're going to pick. Or if your child is older and just struggling to, kind of a late talker, or struggling to imitate sounds, imitate words, and make talking and words, then this is another same thing. We're going to start in a similar place. We're going to go back to that early development, and we're going to start with the early sounds and the early syllable structures and work our way up. So it's a speech hierarchy. So that's kind of the science behind speech and syllable development. So I hope you enjoy the activities, and can learn a little something about how to increase imitation and early words with your young child or infant learning to talk. Thank you.